Start with please like, share, subscribe. We need subscribers right now, but I'm going to go over this real quick. You know, a lot of people have been ragging on Fords for a little while, and people are like, "Whoa, man! Why would you get a Duramax over the Ford?" So let's talk about the Duramax diesel and why I think it's better. First of all, I can take the Ford truck with the same weight and I get about 20% less gas mileage. So that's a huge issue to me. 20%. So 20% is about 2 miles a gallon pulling. Okay. So 2 miles a gallon pulling is, that's every $100 you spend, that's $20 in your pocket. That's number one. Number two, it has a good automatic transmission made by Allison. Ford, they just don't last. There's a lot of issues with the oil coolers and, pushing coolant into the trans and just all kinds of, there's so many different things. I can't even tell you all the different things. And this is even over the 7.3. The things that are better about the Ford is the front suspension. Is pretty weak on the Chevy, but for me, when I'm pulling, it rides a lot smoother in the Chevy, so that's another plus. So, but if you're doing off-road type of stuff, where you're doing a lot of driving, and dirt roads, stuff like that, the Ford would be better for that. The other thing is the engine's quieter in the Chevy, so your ride down the road is a lot smoother and quieter. The torque and horsepower is definitely more with the Chevy. In fact, it pretty much effortlessly pulls the trailer, where when I'm driving the Ford, pulling, it seems to want to like struggle. And it's not struggling, but it's pulling the weight and everything else. And even with the injector problems that this truck has had, it's an easier fix than the problems I've had with my Ford. I've also had injector problems with the Ford, so it's not just Chevy that has injector problems. A lot of guys go, "Oh, I've got 400,000 miles on my Ford, never had done the injectors." Like, it's hard for me to believe that when I did mine at 150,000 miles. So the driving, the engine has definitely more power, better gas mileage. It likes when you put weight on it. The weird thing is, the more weight I put on this thing, it just doesn't really feel that much different, like the engine's working any harder. Where the Ford, when I put the weight on it, you can definitely tell the engine's pulling harder. The thing about the Ford that I do like too is, I do like about the Ford is it does sound better than the Chevy. It does sound really bitchin' with the turbo screaming and all that stuff. And I think that's what people really like about them. But that's not really a reason to have a truck. You want it to do what it's supposed to do, As far as reliability goes, I've always had worse luck with Fords than Chevys. I've had both. They've given me the most problems, and they have the weirdest, stuff. So hang on one second. I'm going to open the hood so we can look at some things. Well, this is what I really like the most about Chevy over the Ford, is I can get to everything in the engine compartment. In the Ford, where the location of the turbo, the tubing, everything is so much harder to reach in it. And it's just super hard to work on. And, that's another thing. So every time I've got to work on it, I go, "Oh man, I got to do this." Yeah. And it's just like, they didn't really design it to work on at all. International and Ford clashed. In fact, I just never been a fan of International either. International is kind of like two negatives International's never been that great, and Ford's never been that great. So, you know, you put the two together and you kind of have a disaster waiting to happen. You know, you're talking about a 6.4 Ford. I would just totally steer clear of that engine. That thing is crazy bad. I mean, when I did my Ford rebuild on the 7.3, man, the engine parts on that thing, the rods, piston castings are just so terribly off that, you know, they are having major issues. And you know, you spend all that money on a diesel and it isn't going to give you back anything. So anyway, if there's a possibility, then you're looking at a new truck, or not a new, but an older truck like these. This is 2003. You know, I would move towards Chevy. You know, or if you want a Ford, definitely get the 7.3. It's better than the others, but it does definitely have some issues. Mine cracked 3 pistons, so guys are saying that it doesn't have that problem, but then when you talk to them for a while and they go, oh yeah, I do have another engine that has broken rings or something like that, you know, they've got, it has issues with that. But it's, you know, other than that, the engine's really good, and once you get that fixed, which is like a $7,000 rebuild, you know, $8,000, $10,000 rebuild if you take it to a shop, you know, then you'll probably be fine. But you know, this is the comparison between Chevy and the Ford. Just to work on these things is a lot easier, and a lot easier to do stuff too. The Fords, they have a lot more power-up mods that are easy to put on. The Chevy, I would not put power-up mods in this motor. Start doing that stuff, you're gonna have more problem with injectors, and you know, that's just not a good idea. I stay completely stock. It has plenty of power, pulls all the weight I need to pull. You know, there's really no reason to put power ups on this thing. All right, so I'll talk to you in the next video.